Welcome everyone to this week's Data Science Seminar from New Jersey Institute of Technology's Institute for Data Science. I'm David Bader, a distinguished professor and director of the Institute for Data Science. And today's lecture is co-sponsored with the Murray Center for Women in Technology at NJIT and Dr. Nancy Steffen, who directs the Murray Center. We are speaking today in conversation with Deja Bond on responsible data science. Deja Bond is a 24-year-old Philadelphia native. She earned a Bachelor of Science undergraduate degree in computer science at Spelman College in December 2017. She then transitioned into the tech industry as a software engineer and consultant. While working full-time, she pursued her Master's of Data Science from the #1 institution in this field, NYU, or New York University's Center for Data Science. In May 2020, Deja became the first African-American woman to obtain her master's in data science from NYU. Now a product manager at a data-driven startup, Remitly, an international payments company that leverages digital channels, including mobile phones, to send money internationally, she influences product strategy through thoughtful and rigorous data analysis to design digital products that are fundamentally faster, less expensive, and far more convenient for customers to send money across borders. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Nancy Steffen, the director of the Murray Center for Women in Technology. Nancy?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Okay, I'm Nancy Steffen-Fleur, and as David said, I'm director of the NJIT's Murray Center for Women in Technology. The center, which was established in 1995, is a university-wide network that connects women faculty, students, and administrators to each other and to the resources they need to succeed. We've worked closely over the years with our Yingwu College colleagues. We partnered with Professor Geller on a Northern Learning Circle team and with Professor Vincent Oria on NJIT's Secure Computing Initiative, which is funded by a grant from the National Science Foundation as part of its effort to encourage more women and underrepresented minorities to go into cybersecurity. The Murray Center has received NSF grants as well for our work to advance women STEM faculty, and we've been honored by a National Change Agent Award for efforts to help women students succeed by providing networking opportunities and exciting role models. So today's speaker, Deja Bond, is an exciting role model indeed, and we are delighted to partner with Professor Bader and his team in co-sponsoring this seminar on responsible data science. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. And what we're going to do is have a conversation with Deja. I first came to know about Deja when I ran across this headline in the Philadelphia Tribune. Philly native is first African-American woman to receive advanced degree in data science from NYU. And she has such an inspirational story that I thought it would be great to have her in our data science series here to speak about some of her experiences.
Hey, everyone.
So Deja, maybe you want to say a few words to introduce yourself?
Yeah. David, you did an amazing introduction. I don't know if I can top it. Like you said, I'm 24 years young. And I guess through this conversation, you're gonna discover why I chose data science, how I became a role model unexpectedly, and all that good stuff. So ask away,
That's great. So why did you choose to enroll in NYU's data science program?
Yeah, so the part where you mentioned that I was a software engineer, technical consultant, that's true. And I had did that straight out of undergrad as a computer science major. When you're coming right out of school, you're money hungry, you're trying to pay these loans, you're trying to make sure you get a job. And so I very much enjoyed my job as a software engineer, but it started to become routine and a bit boring for me. And boring and tech just does not sit right with me. So I decided to, I had this internship at the Smithsonian one summer, and I didn't even know what data science was, but I was I was playing essentially with big data, doing like data engineering. And so I decided, I was like, well, if I'm going, because I still had like an itch for school. So I decided that if I was going to go to grad school, it has to be for something I like. And so I Googled data science, best schools in data science, because it's not a new field as we all know, but it's like a field that's just starting to get taught at universities. Like we didn't have a data science major at Spelman. So that's why I applied. I had an itch to learn more about the field, to be honest, and I was doing some digging on NYU's faculty and more about the program, and I just started to fall in love with it.
And NYU has a great data science program. Here at NJIT, we're co-located, we're very close to NYU, and we have some great friends and collaborators through NYU and also NJIT. So we're really happy to hear that you went to a great school. But let me take a step back. I heard that you did a summer as a product data engineer at the Smithsonian Institute and the Museum of Natural History. Normally, you wouldn't think of a museum as a data science experience. So what skills did you learn there, and how did you like the experience there?
So that summer, and that was my first internship in tech. But that summer, it was only myself and my manager. I was the only tech person there, like the only engineer intern there. And the assignment was to identify images by its predominant color. And it's because when users will go online to search something on the Smithsonian's website, and it will usually be images, they'll type in something like red bird, they'll describe the object because they didn't know the author or the illustrator or anything like that. So he thought it would be cool to add this filter, and so the search could be more defined and give back accurate results. So that was a big learning experience. That summer I became like an expert in colors because I really had to understand the difference between hues, and that's when I really got to firsthand experience integrating like APIs into the script, because at Spelman we had to do everything from scratch, like coding from scratch. We couldn't use any extra help or any libraries. It was hard. So it was like a big learning experience. So yeah, that was that summer, and it went amazing. I'm not sure, I haven't been on the Smithsonian's website recently, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're still like using that script or if they haven't modified it.
That's fantastic and quite interesting. I'll think about that the next time I look at the Smithsonian Institute and look online at all of their great things.
Yeah.
So Dr. Nancy Steffen also has a couple of questions. We'll go back and forth in the conversation, and then in about 20, 30 minutes, we'll ask the attendees on the Zoom for questions as well. So Nancy, would you like to ask anything?
Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering, it might be interesting to go back a little bit about kind of what inspired you. And I think we know that your grandmother, Evelyn Bond, was an educator in the Philadelphia School District. And I think I know that she was inspirational to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or how she inspired you, and anybody else who inspired you as well?
Oh, you guys did some digging. Yeah. My grandma is like the most inspirational person to me. Yeah, she was a teacher in the Philadelphia School District for over 30 years. And then when she retired, she then taught my brother and I. Like even when we would come home from school, we had an extra set of assignments from her. If something was done incorrectly, it would go in the trash and I had to start all over. So she taught me a lot of discipline and, you know, like how to like keep persevering. I think that's one compliment I get a lot, that I just keep going, because I've been told no so much, like an endless amount of times. But I just, not to say that I don't care about that, but I'm just like, okay, whatever. It's not, you know, you missed out. And it's just like, each thing is a learning opportunity. Like each time I was interviewing straight out of NYU, I heard so many no's, like, and I realized, okay, I'm like, okay, what is the theme? I started like, I'm started analyzing myself. I'm like, what is the common theme? What's the error, you know? And I had to figure out what I was doing incorrectly to improve. So I really started to get their feedback and all that. So my grandma's very inspirational to me. She's no longer physically here, but I can still hear her in my head saying, oh yeah, that's it. Okay, don't listen to, you know, like she's amazing. She's an amazing woman. And I I can only be as, I hope to be as wise as her one day.
So thank you for sharing about your grandmother. She sounded fantastic and really instilled in you a lot of values, especially your education and
There
your
she goes right there in the photo.
I know it must have been rough completing your master's and losing her during that time.
Yeah. That was kind of difficult. And that's why this is like, everything that's happened afterwards is really truly been a surprise. And like, I'm always in awe, because like at that point in my life, I didn't want to continue with the program. It's an amazing program, but it's like, it's one of the most rigorous programs I ever been a part of. And to lose like one of my biggest support systems, and like, you know, it was just like, the peers and the faculty are amazing, but it became difficult. But luckily I had friends. Like NYU is a very family type of community.
So going back a bit, you grew up in Philadelphia,
Yes.
and you attended the Girls High International Baccalaureate program in Philly, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And then you decided to go to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia for computer science. But I understand that you didn't know any computer science or coding before you jumped into computer science at Spelman. So what gives? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's like I was always a math nerd. I did the International Baccalaureate program because I wanted some college credits. Um, and like teachers was like, yeah, Deja should be in here. And I'm like, it's extra work, you know, but okay. And of course my grandma pushed it also. But to be honest, I didn't want to major in math. Like I didn't want to be an actuary scientist. I didn't want to be a math teacher. And I called my dad while I was at the not a career fair, but it's like the major fair where you try to figure out what major you want to be. And he was like, oh, major in something in tech. He was like, it's a fusion of math and computer science, and computer science was untapped for me. And I always love tapping in things that we are not in. So that's how I took my first course, and I was like, okay, I like it, I'll stay. And to be honest, even though it might be stressful, I love a challenge. It's the only thing that keeps me going, because I'm like, okay, it's challenging, but I'm gonna get through it.
That's a great attitude to have. So you've spent time in Philadelphia, Atlanta, Chicago, New York. Do they have different vibes for data science? Have you noticed anything the same or different?
Um, I think you know, in a it was different. So when you say different vibes, do you mean like they approached it differently?
Does the sort of community, the companies, the folks that you interact with, do they have different cultures in these different cities?
Yeah, so the culture in Atlanta, that's a room where I've been in where I've seen the most like Black computer scientists, like who are women, and because they were my peers. And it was very open. It's one of the only ways I got through, to be honest, to have that cohort. And then like in Indianapolis, where my first job was, young, 21, because I graduated a semester early. I kind of specifically chose a younger company to feel more welcomed in that space. And the culture was very like a learning culture. I didn't feel intimidated. I kind of started to feel like some of the men were intimidated by me, to be honest, because I was basically a Salesforce developer. Salesforce is big CRM platform, and we would get certificates to prove like our expertise to the clients. And I was always one of the first to like pass their certification. But that's because, go back to my grandma. My grandma always used to push me so hard. So it's just like I used to always be one and done in it. And it was just like, okay, that's when I had to learn that it's okay to be a Black woman in tech and be proud of it, because I wouldn't dumb down myself, but I would be quiet about my accomplishments. And this NYU one, I was like, I can't be quiet about it. So
That's great. Nancy, do you want to chat for a bit?
Thank you. Well, I think you maybe have already answered, but let's go back to was there, when you're getting your degree, was there one challenge in particular that stands out as the single most difficult one that you had to face? I know you spoke of that. There was a lot of challenges along the way.
yeah, I think the challenge was just that the work was difficult. It was this one course, fundamental algorithms, and it's very fundamental. And I failed it like the first time go around. And I usually, like in undergrad or something, I would beat myself up because I never failed a course before. And when I got to grad school, I was like, as long as I truly know it. And I'm like, because the exam is kind of tailored to like how the professor or the TA writes it. So that's when I realized how important the relationship between the professor and I was. Like, so he would start to give me like my personal exams to see if I really knew the material. So when I start to get the hang of grad school, and like, okay, like, to be honest, guys, I'm very transparent. I can count on like two hands how many times I like aced the exam. Like, I'm a horrible exam taker, but I know my stuff. Like, I would do super well on projects because I can really dig into it. But it's just so much pressure coming to me during the exam. So that was, I guess that was the hardest thing, trying to figure out how to navigate through grad school. And I guess one other part is I was still working at Aperio, my first job, the first year of grad school. So I was working 8:30 to 5:30 remotely on my computer, and then getting dressed and hopping on the train to go to Manhattan to go to class until 10 p.m. or later.
Wow. Um, I don't know. I had another question, but it goes into another area. So maybe you want to go back. I wanted to talk about the kind of networking, which is sort of the next phase of your career. And I gather you've done very well and been very intentional about building your network, that you reached out to, you looked for women online to add to your network. That's really important. And at the Murray Center, we talk about it a lot. Could you talk a little bit about how you went about thinking about how you were building your network, and also how you were reaching out to mentors in your career?
Yeah, so I never realized how important a mentor could be in your life, because I've had mentors where the communication was off, where they check in like once every couple of months and nothing really got done. But I would see like the most intelligent students um, not have a difficult time with like getting jobs, and they were like very qualified, but maybe the hiring manager didn't know how to hire, or whatever the case may have been. And I was like, my thing, I always had this itch. I'm a very curious person, and I honestly love to learn. Like, I don't think I will be going back to school for another degree, but I love to learn from my mentors. And um, I had decided that I wanted to have a bigger influence over the way products are built, and so I decided to go into product management. So if you think about Black women in computer science is maybe like this much, data science is maybe like this much, product management is I'm almost touching. So I was like, it's that phrase is who you know. So I took that literally, and I was like, I looked through LinkedIn and looked for Black male or female product managers, and I didn't find one to like the 40th page. So I then went to Google, and I was like, okay, there's got to be someone here, and I found this article. I think it was on Medium, and then I just connected and reached out to people. And it's like when I go reach out to mentors, I don't ask them wanting to like, okay, can you mentor me? Because these people are busy. It's really for guidance and for critique. I ask for a lot of critique because even though sometimes the critique may be hard to hear, I want to improve. Like I want to improve. I want whoever I'm working with, I want them to be able to trust me that they're going to get great quality work each time. And I just want to minimize the amount of errors I make early on in my career.
Thank you. That's great.
So Deja, as you start to mentor other students yourself and pass this on, what sort of advice would you give underrepresented students who are thinking about a career in data science?
So it's funny because you hear data science, and I think it's a very big term, and most people don't know what that is. So I never force like something on someone, but I like to tell them, so that I love doing seminars like this and talks like this. So I encourage them to like look, because people, like, we're in the age where people are making like their own titles, their own jobs. So I guess my advice would be to, like, if you are interested or just somewhat curious, Google is your best friend. Like look some things up, and see like what data science actually is. And you might not love all of it, but one thing my grandma taught me is like you always will find a section of something that you really truly like. In data science, I really like machine learning. So it's like find something you really like and that gravitates towards you, and then like reach out to see like who are the people in that field, like what they have been through, like the highs and lows, so you could get a feel for it. A lot of underrepresented youth have very limited resources, because I went to Girls High, was an inner city public school, um, and I never had a mentor there. And my mentor was my grandma, so it was just me always curious. I was fortunate enough to have and my dad is in education, so I have him, I have my grandma, all of these people in education, like giving me like a different view of things, like, because honestly a lot of underrepresented youth believe that all they can be is like a nurse or one of the stereotypical jobs, so it's to really broaden their view. So my okay, in short, my advice would be to explore, like don't let anyone limit your mind, and keep going. Don't get distracted by what other people are saying. I know that may sound cliche, but if you would have told me like during my first year, especially when like all the craziness with my grandma passing and everything happened, that I would be the first African American woman to do this, I would have been like, I don't believe you and I don't care, so it's just like my yearning to learn is what got me here, and like me networking and make noise about yourself. I love NYU, but I don't even think they realized at first that I was the first one. I had emailed someone. I was like, oh, is there anyone else out there? I would love to connect with her, because there is a Black male who graduated a semester before me. He was the first one, but he didn't make noise about himself. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm a I'm a shout it a little bit, especially in like the job drought that we were going through during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think NYU was very proud of you. They said that, or they featured you in their CDS Incredible Alumni Series,
Yeah.
which was a fantastic profile. But your words are so inspirational, and I hope by doing conversations like this that you're able to really reach those that may not realize the full potential of opportunities that they have. And it's great that you're talking with us about that. I'm just curious, did your grandmother ask you what's data science? It's such a new field. How did you explain it to her what you're planning to do?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. Um, my grandma's very old school, still pencil and paper, didn't really know how to use the computer, anything like that. So my grandma actually helped me write my personal statement for NYU. Like I told her like you have to give like a generic thing. Like I'm like, Grandma, you know Siri? I'm like, Siri collects like that's a product of your data. Like when you're talking to her. So I just try to find like a real simple example. And she got on the internet as best as she could. And she was like, Deja, NYU is for you. She was like, I feel it. And I'm like, Grandma, be quiet. Be quiet. And we were sitting down talking, trying to figure out, what it is I wanted to do, why I wanted to go here. We were both like reading up on the professors there and the courses. And, she was trying to talk me into like, okay, you can do it. Because I really had a difficult time debating on whether I should leave my job to go to school. And fortunately, I was blessed with a scholarship to cover tuition, or I would have had to deny the opportunity. So that's some other advice I would love to give. Um, it was like bittersweet. Like I was on the waiting list, and then they sent me like a accepted students email saying like, we're having this get together. And I was like, that's not funny. Like I wasn't admitted. And then it was like, check your status. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been admitted. And then like my happiness like cooled down because I was like, I can't afford it. I could barely afford Spellman. And so I literally typed, all you have to do is make noise and ask. I wrote an email and I said, it was a one-liner. I said, do you have any money for Black, I bolded these three words, Black women in technology. Like I'm like, it's one of those groups. You gotta have money. And it was like the last day to accept. And so I thought I wasn't gonna go. And she was like, yep, here you go. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I was like, okay, I'm
Wow.
to be here.
That's fantastic, great advice, and also congratulations. I understand it was a DeepMind fellowship, and that DeepMind was the Center for Data Science at NYU's first industrial partner. So tell me a little bit more about DeepMind, and did you interact with DeepMind or with your other peers who also had fellowships?
It was more so the interaction between the other DeepMind fellows and I. We would get together, and one reason I liked the fellowship and was very appreciative of it is because I thought like maybe I would have to work with them, like be a TA or do something like that. The DeepMind fellowship really just allowed us to go really deep into our studies, like without distraction, because honestly, that's what every student deserves. You get distracted by work or like other limitations or things that you have. And so I would have, and to be honest, I had a mentor, but I only have a conversation with this person once. Um, and it was mostly the interaction with my peers. So getting to be with them, getting to hear their story, getting to work with them. And it was really wonderful hearing like about everyone's background and where they came from. One of my friends, like he was a business major and now he's in this data science program. So it's of minds. And I think that's like one of the main goals of the Deep Mind Fellows, to get colorful minds together and create something beautiful.
That's really, really awesome to hear. So let's move forward a little bit, and I want to hear more about your career in data science after graduating. So I know that you went to a startup, Ilavi, and now you're at Remitly. Tell me a little bit more about the skills that you've used. And I know that the first company was a startup. What did you learn in data science, and how did you like those experiences?
Yeah, so my first, it was a contract position with LV. LV is a um artificial intelligence startup, very small, about 10 people, like a family, and uh their mission is to eliminate loneliness for those living with dementia. Um, Data controls a lot. It has a lot of power. And so I love when it's used to solve a solution, especially that ones that's not been solved before. There's no cure for dementia, and 50 million people are living with it right now. So essentially, LV's product is that they created this digital avatar to look like you, sound like you, and speak like you. And so if you have your mother in a senior living community, and it's COVID, like it just happened to be COVID, but the product was built before COVID, but she cannot talk to, like, you cannot come in. She has this phone in which, and you cannot answer because maybe you're working or something. She can use the product and she will believe that she's talking to David, so it helps alleviate that agitation and aggression uh, that she feels, and honestly that the care partners or nurses caring after your mother feels, because they get all of that. They get the what they call in the field behaviors of the resident. So um, I my goal was to work at a company who believed in the power of data and was essentially trying to figure out how to use it for its better. We dealt with a lot of conversational data. So one thing I did admire about LV is that they didn't want to use any data sets that were already out there, because data contains a lot of bias. And there was like in some of the corpuses, like a lot of like racial intentions and racist intentions and things that we just didn't want our model learning. So one of the biggest things, and that LV is still working on, is collecting this raw natural data from the conversations that our participants have agreed to do. And so we can feed that into our model so they can learn, so that the agent can learn what to say next and how to say it and what's the intention of their parents. So it was really amazing. It's a really amazing product. And yeah, that was my experience at LV. And though I did not code, like I was not a data engineer there, I still had like a lot of involvement over like the decisions and things we were going to do, and that's my goal. I'm a data science enthusiast, so I just didn't want to. Sometimes you get tired of coding, so my title over there was associate product manager, to see the bigger picture and have more influence over that.
It's just great to see you passionate. The work with LOV shows that you're looking at using data science for making the world a better place, for helping people, and your passion really comes through in that. What do you have any thoughts long term? Would you like to start a data science company at some point in your life?
That's the goal, to build a company that um a lot of companies do not know what to do with their data, and they don't know how to use it. They don't know who to hire. So to build a company that thrives off of it and first respects it, because there's a lot of cultural and social bias in data, and it distorts results. And companies are saying like, oh, we're removing these biases, and stuff like that. But you can't do it overnight. What's been happening for years, like what your models have learned, and that's your foundation. So I don't exactly know what company I want to start. That's what I'm actually trying to figure out by, working with Olavi and now working with Remitly, is to figure out like what do the users need. And that's one thing I really love about combining like data science and product management, because with product management, I can be customer facing. I can see what they need and what's the actual issue. And like when I was just coding, you have this task, but it's like the human aspect is taken away. So with product management and data science, I can combine these two fields, and I feel like it's producing amazing results. So you guys will have to stay updated for my company. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure things out. But that was the goal of me also being a product manager, is to figure out how to run a business, how to run a data science organization.
Just remember me when it comes to friends and family rounds, because I think you're going to do extremely well.
Thank you.
So I just want to check, Nancy, do you have other questions, or should we ask for some questions from the audience?
I think let's open it to the audience.
Okay, so some questions will come through on chat, maybe others will chime in, but there's a question from Juliansis. Deja, you're an inspiration in so many ways, love listening. What improvements have you seen in terms of minimizing biased algorithms? The products you mentioned to decrease loneliness sound wonderful, very cyber psychology related.
Yeah, so that's a big question. Thanks, Julie. And honestly, improvements that I've seen, that improvement to me, like that I've had a connection with, would just be working with LV, just because they were building their models from scratch. They were collecting their data, they didn't buy it. They didn't get it a malicious way, and so bias algorithms, ooh, there's a lot of bias in algorithms. And so, I mean, when I was working with the data one-on-one, it would really just be when you're a data scientist, a computer scientist, an engineer, you don't also take like a psychology class, it's just straight algorithms, math, and the human aspect is kind of put down there. Like it's not weighted as heavy, but you cannot take it out. And a lot of these issues are not just technical problems, they're like socio-technical, like they involve human interaction. And I believe that a lot of things are automated now, and automation is great, but it's automated at a big scale, because we need to get things done. But that just makes the bias at a bigger scale. It just makes it widespread. So, okay, I'll give you one example. So one case that I was studying was Google has showed ads that contained a job that was offering $200,000 plus dollars. But they showed that ad to like 2,000 men versus about 300 women. And it was like their algorithm contained bias. And I think once they figured out that it was doing that, and once the public figured out, they had to do something. So my big thing is like putting people on blast. They have to know that their algorithms are containing bias and distorting results. So I think that's the improvement, that companies are becoming more aware of their models and their algorithms and need to spend more time and money and resources on improving this.
So I should mention, Professor Juliansis directs a new program at NJIT in cyber psychology. So that was a great response.
You guys are making me nervous. You guys are so smart, and you've been teaching this for years, and I've only got my master's, so it's like, oof, I feel like I'm on a hot seat. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, so you probably can't see the chat, but there are comments.
Doing great.
You're so smart, you're amazing. So keep doing what you're doing. I think you're onto something and looking at responsible data science and the biases in data and algorithms. Let's see, are there any other questions from the audience?
I hear someone. Oh, okay.
So there's a question from Bianca Mendoza, and I apologize, the name is cut off after that. Hi, Deja, it's great hearing your story. You've inspired someone like me who is new to the data science field. As a data analyst, I do sometimes struggle learning all the necessary tools and skills. Are there any books you'd recommend to help advance in this field?
I'm gonna be very transparent. I never read. Like I would read and I would study like I never read books. Like I have a bunch of books right here and I would read what I need to read. But actually when it came to data science, it would be the community. Like there's a bunch of online communities. And like it was this one website I would go to all the time that had like I forgot what it's called, but it was specifically for algorithms and helping you, because I feel like that's super big in data science. That's one thing we always did was tweaking, hyper tuning, gradient descent, all that stuff. And, that's a really difficult subject. So really use your online resources. And I know it's kind of hard with COVID that you can't collaborate as easily with people, but I will say I've learned the most from my peers, because a lot of them, like there were a portion of people who came straight from undergrad or something like that, who were young like me. But then there was also a group of people who had been working as data analysts and scientists, and they were coming to the program to get more of a foundational knowledge. So, when you're working, try to find somebody who you think is like smart or who just knows something that you don't know, because they have a way of teaching you that a book cannot teach you.
So there's a comment from Riley Seitner, and I should mention Riley is a Bergen County high school student interning this academic year with the Institute for Data Science at NJIT, who says, thank you, your story is so inspiring. So it's just great to see that you're reaching all of these folks. And Bianca Mendoza Joseph says, super helpful, thank you. And that was for the previous question about recommendations for books in data science.
Yeah, probably.
I also want to thank you in particular for saying more than once that you got to make noise. That's really, really important, because sometimes women are socialized to be silent and to not ask and not make themselves visible. And so I love the fact that was very central to your whole journey. And also make noise about the great things you do. Because that's really important.
Yeah, and like I still feel imposter syndrome sometimes, but that's just a psyche in your head, like you deserve to be at that table. You are there for a reason. You are very intelligent, and you must tell yourself that. And it's like, we are in mental health crisis right now, and the negative self-talk has gotten out of control. So it's one thing, like if you want to break into this field of data science, get in the habit of telling yourself that you can do this. I used to have a data science problem. I forgot what website it was, but it would get emailed to me every day. And so I would try to solve it. And that's how I like kept up on my toes and like would try different problems that the professors, didn't give. So keep up on your skills, and like you don't have to know it all right now. And data science is constantly changing. Like so that's my advice to you also, Bianca, is like once I find the website, I gotta find the website. Try to practice a problem a day and repeatedly practice it, so it becomes so natural, and it's not like you're remembering it. It's because you know what's the next step to take.
So I heard some talk of imposter syndrome, but I have to say you're the real deal. I've met a lot of data scientists, and you're really amazing and so early in your career. So it's just so refreshing to see. What advice would you give to young women that you meet who are thinking about pursuing a career in data science? Is there other advice that you give?
So besides networking, because I feel like we don't do that enough,
Uh-huh.
I saw a great post about like how people apply to like careers in schools, because like it's the prestige behind it, or the name, or the benefits it offer. But what you should spend your time doing is analyzing yourself and figure out what you truly want to do. Like I said, find something you like and then network. Like if you found something interesting in me and like you want to learn more about machine learning, or how did I break into AI company during a pandemic, fresh out of NYU. And I know a few of my peers are having like a time struggling trying to land jobs who I thought were way smarter than me. And it's just because that they focus so much on the work, which you have to do, but it's also about letting your name be known and networking and picking other people's brains. Like I think one of the downfalls is that you try to feed into the book so much, but people offer knowledge that you can't get from a book. And so you have to have these networks where you can do a knowledge transfer. So that would be my advice. Get that real life knowledge transfer. Take notes on that and you learn. You really do. And you learn tips and tricks that will just advance you in what you want to do in your life, career, whatever.
So thank you. We have a couple minutes before we wrap up, but I'm curious, when you watch this video on YouTube in 10 years, tell me what you, Deja Destiny Bond, 10 years from now will be doing.
I'm a multifaceted woman. So 10 years, let me see, I'll be 34. So I have a few goals. I actually plan to like have my own startup by 30. So let's say like 6 years. And I very much believe I can do it. That's my big goal. So it would just be growing that company. I think one thing about companies is to really have the culture solid. The people, you working with these people all the time, you're making like really hard decisions and tackling really tough problems. So I want people to be like, oh, like I work for the bond company and I love it there, and so that's my goal, to like respect the people, respect the data, and just make it more known. And people don't know what their data is or what it can do, so also to have like this educational aspect of it, to let them know like you do have the power and you're don't you don't have to be so blind to it, because people are thinking like, oh, we'll leave that to the nerds or this, that, and the third. No, you can. Like, it's not so complicated that you can't understand something of it. Don't let anyone intimidate you out of knowing more. There's a way to teach. And, I'm always in the mindset of learning and teaching people and not putting people down for not knowing something. So that's would be like just setting the values of the company.
So Deja, I've really enjoyed this conversation. You're so passionate and you're so imaginative, and you have had both great mentors, but I see that you're really turning into a mentor for others and really such an inspiration. So thank you for spending this hour with us. And also, I'm Dr. Nancy Steffen, Director of NJIT's Murray Center for Women in Technology. Thank you for co-sponsoring. And Nancy, do you have some wrap-up words?
Well, it's all next week is going to be the beginning of Women's History Month, and this is actually a kind of preview, a great way to begin, because this is just what we want to focus on, is focus on women getting themselves out there. So this was actually a terrific way, even though it isn't quite Women's History Month. This is a terrific opening for it, and I thank you so much for being here, and thank you, David, for letting us sponsor.
Thank you. And Deja, I'll give you the final word, anything that you'd like to say.
Final words. Final words is I have this organization that I started, and it's for inner city youth girls to have a space to be creative, because I feel like I didn't have that space and many of my peers didn't. And so even though it's for the youth, I really want people to know that it's okay to be imaginative. Like, it's okay. Like, your creativity does not stop at a certain age. And honestly, you asked me how computer science, how data science, I've like jumped into this with probably knowing a little bit of it, like not longer than a month. So don't be afraid to learn more. Don't be afraid to go further. There was a time where I was going to deny my NYU acceptance because I was scared. I was so comfortable with being a software engineer, and I was scared that I wouldn't make a lot of money and stuff like that. So yeah, it's to limit that fear. Like, the fear is not there. You made that up. So as long as you know that, then like that the sky isn't even the limit.
So thank you, Deja. That's just incredible to hear. You're such an inspiration. I've probably said that a few times, but thank you again. And hopefully we'll get to meet after the pandemic as we cross paths. And I hope to see you running that company before you're 30, and really mentoring and giving such great advice to young women and those who are pursuing these challenging careers. So thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. And I would love to stay connected with everyone. So reach out to me on LinkedIn. And yeah, I love networking. So reach out to me.
Okay, take care, and thank you everyone for joining here on Zoom and our YouTube audience. We'll see you again next week.